Beats here from Popternative, speaking to filmmaker, writer, producer Jed Shepherd, known for a lot of his incredible work in the horror sphere, including host on Shudder, Dashcam, some of my personal faves. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me. It's been a while. I feel like I should have been on this 2 years ago. What
It's been
happened?
I don't know what happened. There's this long history of like back and forth, like direct messages,
Yeah,
and you know what? We're here now, and
we are here. Yeah,
that's all that matters. It's
yeah.
interesting because I feel like a lot of people that work in horror movies and that genre specifically grew up being
hmm
fans of them. Do you look
Yep.
at horror differently than you were a fan compared to being a filmmaker?
Very good question. I would say primarily the number one thing that I am is a fan. I'm a movie fan. I'm a horror film fan, and then I'm a filmmaker.
Yep.
I think my love for the genre is, it kind of precedes me. It's all I think about every day. I wake up, I think about horror movies. I go to
Mhm.
sleep, I think about horror movies. And I just think it's like research. If you love the thing that you do, then it's hardly work. It's fun. It's
You and me
excitement.
both, man. I love horror movies. I swear. And Host is in some really good company with Shudder. I feel like Shudder
Yeah,
is just constantly just pumping out movie after movie. Like it's pretty amazing. And like for guys like us, it's spooky season all year long. Let's be honest.
oh yeah, exactly. Exactly. People don't understand. People think it's a cliche that every day is Halloween. It really is. Every day is Halloween. If you're a horror fan, because like I'm sure you're the same. Every day you're seeking out
Yep.
new horror films. The show's got loads. Arrow Player's got loads, and you know, horror's the mainstream now. It isn't just a niche thing. It's everywhere. It's box office. So, yeah, we're living in good times, the best times.
It's I think I think there's many reasons why it's one of the best, like one of the most kind of hot genres right now. I feel like there's a
Yeah,
lot. I do feel like, you read things about how like Insidious the Red Door, right? Costing $16 million to make, right? That like
yeah.
like that's definitely like it's not hard. It's cheaper to come up with just really terrorizing ideas.
I know it's crazy, and add on to that onto that 60 mil. I don't know if that's the production budget, but add on all of the advertising, promotion, and stuff. Like it's getting up there for 100 mil. So you know, but I mean, if to me those movies are awesome. I love the Insidious
Yep.
movies, but like horror is one of those genres that can be made for very little money, and it's
Yes.
almost the entry level genre for a lot of filmmakers.
Yep.
A lot of my favorite filmmakers, James Cameron, Steven Spielberg, the first films they ever did were Christopher Nolan. The first films that they did were horror movies, and there's
Mhm.
a reason for that.
There's different ways to scare people. Host did this in a way that was so amazing because obviously it had the supernatural seance component of it, but there was the reactions of these girls on the Zoom chat of certain things they were saying and everything. The psychological game was kind of added in. Do you think that is one of the things that you love the most about being in this world right now, where obviously a lot of the films that you've worked on have the traditional kind of horror elements with the jump scares and the kind of, monsters and everything, but there's the kind of like people are scary head game component to
Yes.
things that I love a lot about horror movies right now.
Yeah, well, kind of the things that I do going into a horror film, and I'm working with Rob, like
Oh yeah.
me and him are the same. We have this thing where we like to marry modern things with old classic horror tropes. So with
Mhm.
Host, you got something old school and very much in the classic horror film world, which is like a seance. Especially in the UK, seances they've been in our kind of cinema
Oh,
for a long time, and then we marry that to something modern like Zoom, and it becomes something else. So always like to see what came before and how you can give a modern spin on it.
I've said this before many times. I've interviewed your cast. I'm saying this. Host is one of the greatest horror movies of all time.
Oh, thanks, man.
It is, no, because listen, it's one of those things where you made this movie that, in a lot of ways, did things that we've never seen before. And I'm not gonna ask you like to tell your secrets or anything, but I genuinely go back and rewatch that movie a lot, and like I don't know how you guys got some of those shots, like some of those jump scares. Like I genuinely don't know, and it credits to you, but like I genuinely don't know.
We have a very good team,
Yeah,
and it's a team that we're all working with still, and we've had the same team since day one, since 10 years ago when me and Rob were making our very first short. It's the same team, so
yep,
we've come to know each other's works, and how we work very, very well. And yeah, all I can put it down to is just a great team, a great director, great
yep.
producer, great editor, which is really important. Bruno Rangel, our editor, and for me personally, the cast is what makes this film so good. I mean, I would like to take tiny bit of credit, but I would say primarily for me, it's the cast that makes it. If there was one different member of cast, I think the film would be completely different. It's funny, I was speaking to Ed Sanchez today, who's the writer director of Blair Witch Project, and we were talking about, oh man, what would have happened if in the casting process for Blair Witch Project you would have had one different person than Josh, Mike, and Heather, like, and he was telling me the story. I don't think anyone ever knows the story, but there was this other guy that we're going to have instead of Josh. I think his name was Eric. They were going to have this guy called Eric instead of Josh, and they were so close. I just wonder, wow, what would have happened? Would it have blown up? Would it have been the same movie? It's like a sliding door situation. You don't know what would have happened, and
Yeah.
it's the same with Host. Who knows what would have happened? And it's just really a coincidence that all of these people were friends of ours and were on this one WhatsApp group that we started at the start of the pandemic, which became Host.
So good. And I don't know if you ever saw that clip. I remember during the pandemic, I had Jason Isaacs on my show, and I asked him because he was like, "I'm a big horror movie." Do you remember that? Do you remember that vaguely?
I remember that because I clipped that and I posted it as well just to hit because Jason Isaacs is a
He was
legend.
like, "I know the best part is like, I love Host. I've seen it 4 times."
Yeah, uh, 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 I love it. It's so funny because I've been in a Zoom meeting with like him and like 50 other people, so he doesn't know who I am.
Yeah.
But like I was just thinking, oh my God, you've seen my film so many times. It's great.
I mean, Dashcam, which is kind of available on Netflix in some countries as well. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, is it?
it
Oh yeah,
is.
Netflix Canada,
Yeah,
I
Netflix
think.
Canada for sure. But here's the thing about that movie. I feel like you made
I
that
love
movie.
the hesitation. I love the hesitation and the
Well,
thing.
I don't know if
How
I
am I gonna?
know. I don't know if I know what is going on in that movie, and I feel like that's the point.
I don't think anyone knows what's going on in that movie.
I mean, I had a great time. I think
Yeah.
there's things that happen in that movie that, I mean, I think that live stream chat is one of the most entertaining, best parts of that movie. Everything gets
It's
elevated from that
great.
live stream chat.
Yeah, you can watch that film in a number of ways, and you can watch it just by looking at the chat and just seeing what's going on, and it's really like if you watch the film without looking at the chat,
Mhm.
you're just experiencing the movie from the point of view of the lead.
Yep.
But if you look at the chat as well, then you kind of get a little bit more exposition about what's going on in the world and what people think,
Yep.
and it's kind of based on a true story as well. Like
Yeah, I
so,
don't like I said, I'm a big believer too. I love going in fresh for horror movies. Every time I
mhm,
recommend, because you know what? Here's the thing: there's so much content out there, Jed, and there are a lot of horror movie fans. I work with a lot of them as well. They have Shudder and everything. Some of them
yeah,
don't like. I've told many people to watch Host that
yeah,
didn't know about Host, and that's fine
nice,
considering there's so much content out there, right? You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, but everyone who's watched that movie has like come back and messaged me and been like, man, like not only was this like really good, but this is like up there. Like this is
Oh,
like one of the
thanks.
better ones. No, it's credit to you guys, honestly. And to see the doors that it's
Mhm.
open for yourself, Gemma and Rob and everything. Like it's just incredible working with Blumhouse. Like, I mean, how does that feel? You just kind of go, you make something during the pandemic and like a bunch of doors just kind of open, right?
Yeah, well, people kind of look at us a little bit like overnight successes, but it took a decade to become
Yeah.
an overnight success. So me and Rob were just slogging out, making these short films in the UK, submitting to festivals,
Yep.
not getting into some, getting into some, and just doing that until we popped off. Um, But the funny thing is, it does look from the outside, like from what people know, they can see some of the stuff that we're up to, but
Mhm.
that's the tip of the iceberg. There's like 90% of the things that we're doing we just can't talk about. Like it's not been announced or or it's very close to being announced. So it's so difficult to keep in because I just get overexcited about everything. So every now and again I just want to post something on Twitter like, oh my God, guess what I'm doing? But I just can't. Um, but yeah, I mean, again, who would have known what would happen
Well,
without
there was those
host?
announcements too, right? That came out that were like there was a bunch just saying that you guys are working with Blumhouse, and that announcement that Rob was directing the Boogeyman, like all that stuff kind of came out
Yeah,
all at once. You made a video game
yeah,
Ghost, like I was like, these guys
yeah.
are all over my feed. Like I'm so happy.
But you know what? That is a very good point. Right at the start, year one, we were announcing things every 5 minutes, but then
I remember.
it was just like bang, bang, bang. But we have learned not to do that now. Like we've learned
No,
to
yeah.
spread it out a little bit because I mean, maybe actually Rob's got quite a lot of things that he's announced already.
Well, we
Already.
had a
Yeah.
group chat like me, you, Gemma, and Rob at one point because we were trying to
Mhm.
even do something all of us, and I
Yeah.
remember just like popping in that group chat, being like, "Cool announcement," and like 2 days later, like, "Awesome announcement."
So there was so many that year one, and I'm glad that like because we made a couple of like movie announcements that people forget, and I was
Mhm.
like, phew, thank you for
Well, I
forgetting
don't
because
remember seeing the it's funny, the dash cam, I don't remember seeing announcements about that, to be honest with you. Like I remember like at
yeah.
some point, like when you guys announced distribution and everything, but I don't remember seeing much about that.
Do you know what? It got swallowed up because it was the three picture Blumhouse deal thing was
Yes.
announced, and that was kind of the announcement, I guess. In fact, I don't even remember the announcement for Dashcam at
So
all.
that's the first. Was that the first Blumhouse movie you guys did with them?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
So
then
we've got two more to do
oh
at
my
some point. Who knows when?
god, that. But it's like that's the cream of the crop of horror. If you think about it, like it's a dream come true for a guy
Yeah,
like you
it's
who's like loving that stuff, right? Like that genre.
man. Exactly. Sometimes I forget, like, and I have to like sit back and remember the fact where we've got to because up until host, like nobody knew who we were. No, nobody was giving us opportunities. So yeah, the fact we've got a Blumhouse from under our belt and we've got a million other things like happening. Even today had multiple, and yesterday, so many cool meetings about future projects.
Mhm.
It's very very cool times, and it's good to be a horror fan, but it's also good to be making the stuff that like I've always wanted to make since I was a kid.
Yeah, like I was telling you, like I'm getting into filmmaking as well, and just I think
Very cool.
the one I wrapped is not horror, but it like the feeling also of like being on set and just seeing playbacks and just being there. Like I understand like why you do what you do. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
when you're on set, that's when you really like realize it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. And that was the thing with Host. Like we weren't on set with anybody. No one was allowed to
No.
be in each other's homes. So Host is a weird one because we didn't have like a premiere type thing.
Mhm.
It just dropped with no fanfare, and then all of a sudden was like the most talked about film in the world. And me and Rob were there eating egg sandwiches in this cafe, and seeing ourselves on the 6 o'clock news on the TV while we were like in this cafe, just thinking, what is going on? What is going on? It is
Yeah.
nuts. And the UK is a small place, by the way.
When did you like obviously because you and Rob are very close and you do a lot of things. I mean, I'm sure there was some kind of like secrecy about him, like about Boogeyman, right? Like, or did you know about that like as he was knowing about it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, me and Rob, we're contractually obliged to do about five other movies that we've signed contracts for. Um, so
With Blumhouse, right?
I guess two with Blumhouse, and
Yeah.
then we've got three or four other things together that films that we're doing together.
Yep.
Um, and it may grow or that may be it.
Yep.
But it's a lot of movies to do with one person. But yeah, like he keeps us up to date with what he's doing. Like he knows what I'm up to as well. And
Yeah, you're
like,
doing a lot of things. I can't wait for the video game. Any updates
thanks,
on
man.
that, by the way? Is there anything, or is that just kind
Yeah,
of yeah?
yeah. We've got one last bit to film on it. We have we spent the last year and a half making it. And this is my first video game. It's for those that don't know, it's called Ghost. It's a live action video game, which is a kind of a throwback to the Mega CD days, late 90s, early 2000s, where it's you're playing a game and you're seeing real film footage, and it's essentially gamified. And I'm working with the host ladies. I'm working with the creature shop, the Jim Henson Creature Shop,
Yep.
who makes my monsters for me. And I'm working with Trevor Henderson, the kind of the monster creator. And yeah, it's been a hard slog. It's a whole different thing than like making a movie.
Yeah.
Real different.
It,
Yeah.
Well, we'll get the updates when they come. But
Yeah.
what we could say now is people could watch Host on Shudder, and they
Yeah.
could watch. Well, yeah, like I said, Dashcams in Canada is on Netflix, but
Yeah.
in the US they could watch it. Is it on?
It's just everywhere. I guess you can watch it on Amazon or
Yeah.
stuff like that, and yeah, just in the normal places. It's
Awesome.
out on DVD and Blu-ray, etc.
Jed, seriously, it was an honor and privilege to speak with you on Popternative, man. I wanted to do this for a while,
Oh,
but thank you for
thanks.
some time.
Is that
honestly.
it? That was quick.
Usually they're like 15 to 20 minutes, but like,
Oh, okay.
Okay, bonus question.
Oh,
There
okay.
is a difference between the scariest movie you've ever seen and your favorite horror movie. Do you know the answers to those two
Yeah.
questions?
I do.
Okay.
That's a good question. So my favorite horror movie, which is obviously my favorite movie, is the film Night of the Comet, the 1984 horror film starring Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelly Maroney.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I love that movie. Just the dialogue, just the fun it has. And actually, it's the 40th anniversary of that next year, which is really cool. But I think the scariest movie of all time for me, I think it actually genuinely is the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, terrifying.
Just the vibe it gives off. I know it's very subtle, but just the sense of doom and claustrophobia you get towards the end of the movie. That final scene just freaks me out, and it's still so effective, or like 24 years later. So yeah, but also it's in my top 3 movies of all time as well, the Blair Witch Project. So
okay, I'm gonna tell you mine. I promise Host is in my
Okay.
top 3 favorite horror movies of all time. Okay,
Okay.
Okay, I had to start with that because you would have just been like, what? Like you said. But okay, so my favorite horror movie of all time is a movie from 2015 called The Invitation with Logan Marshall Green and directed by Karen Kusama. Because
cool.
that was the movie that got me into wanting to make movies. So
The Invitation. Wow, excellent.
You've seen that one, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Because that's literally Dinner Party gone wrong, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Of a genre movie. The scariest horror movie I've ever seen is The Strangers with Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman. That's the scariest movie I've ever seen. Like, I
can see why. Because it's like it can happen to anyone. You know, it's just because they were home. That's why they were picked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good choices, man.
No, absolutely. You're Jed Shepherd on social media, right? People can just kind of follow you on there.
Just Jed Shepherd, yeah. I'm most active on Twitter, I would say, rather than anything else.
On X.
On X now, yes, exactly.
I keep forgetting too.
I was going to give up social media because you know there's a lot of noise on social media.
Oh, yeah.
But then as soon as they rebrand it, I'm such a sucker. I was like, it looks different. I'll go back.
Yeah, but you're also like on writing mode right now too, and I know that's a grind. And like, do you sometimes like put yourself on like wake up in the morning and like you have to put yourself on schedules where you're like, no, like I need to do 2 hours of writing today, like nothing else? Like, does that happen?
Every single day. I write it. I write in the morning every single day. Yeah, like without fail. It doesn't matter what it is or how much I write, but I have an allocated time in the morning where I do that, and then the rest of the day, I kind of have to do whatever I want, really, as long as I got that writing in the morning, because I have a million different films that I'm trying to get off. And
dude, it's so inspirational. And it's honestly inspirational, dude. Like, it's crazy.
Oh, thanks, man.
But this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Jed Shepherd and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.